Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकीम् ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 24, the Renunciation of Kardama Muni. So here we see Kardama Muni in a very friendly mood. He is offering prayers to the Supreme Lord, who is his own son. So that is, he is offering prayers to Kapiladeva. And he is saying that, my dear Lord, you are Paksha Poshanaha, you take side of your devotees. You have appeared here to for Bhaktanam Manavardhana and to disseminate the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga. And you have unlimited form, Rupani Anantasya. At the same time, you take a form, means you reveal a form which is very specific to Rochante as the Abhiruchi of the devotee. So we come to text 32. Tvam Surivistattva Vibhutsayadha Sada Vibhavar Padapitham Aishwarya Vairagya Yasho Vabodha Virya Shriya Purtamaham Prapadye.
Translation. My dear Lord, your lotus feet are the reservoir that always deserves to receive worshipable homage from all great sages eager to understand the absolute truth. You are full in opulence, renunciation, transcendental fame, knowledge, strength, and beauty, and therefore I surrender myself unto your lotus feet. Purport. Actually, those who are searching after the absolute truth must take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and worship Him. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advised Arjuna many times to surrender unto Him, especially at the end of the 9th chapter, Man Mana Bhava Mada Bhakta. If you want to be perfect, just always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your obeisance to me. In this way, you will understand me, the personality of Godhead, and ultimately you will come back to me, back to Godhead, back home. Why is it so? The Lord is always full in 6 opulences, as mentioned herein: wealth, renunciation, fame, knowledge, strength, and beauty. The word Purtam means in full. No one can claim that all wealth belongs to him, but Krishna can claim it since he has full wealth. Similarly, he is full in knowledge, renunciation, strength, and beauty. He is full in everything and no one can surpass him. Another one of Krishna's names is Asar Moradvaha, which means that no one is equal to or greater than him. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So now, Kardama Muni is praying, my dear Lord, he is reconfirming actually the definition of Bhagavan. Your lotus feet are the reservoir that always deserves to receive worshipful homage. Am I audible? There is a lot of breakage in the connectivity. And who are you? You are the personality full in Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashashriyah, Jnana Vairagyayascha. Look at the verse. Okay, so the verse is glorifying all the 6 attributes of Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is the definition of Bhagavan? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that to take shelter, we need some worthy shelter. And worthy shelter is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. So, and who is the Supreme? The Supreme Personality is the personality who is defined by Parashara Muni, by the definition of Bhagavan verse, and by this verse. And therefore, one is supposed to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Right. So as soon as one sees lotus feet of the Lord, one should always think of surrender to those lotus feet. And here in Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada quotes in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is repeatedly telling Arjuna, my dear Arjuna, take shelter. It is simply like we have seen this, right? That it is the ocean repeatedly telling the fish, my dear fish, take shelter of me. So it is not about the self-aggrandizement of the ocean. Neither it is to nicha dikhano to fish. No, that is the natural position of the ocean, of the fish, is to surrender to the ocean, and naturally the fish is in natural position. Similarly, the living entity's natural position is Jivera Swarupa hai Nitya Krishna Das. And therefore, Bhagavad Gita recommends Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskaru. Again and again, there is surrender towards the Supreme Lord. Further, Prabhupada says that there is Purtam. Purtam means all these opulences are incomplete. All these opulences exist in complete proportion in the Supreme Lord. So whenever we talk the opulences, the 6 opulences, we have seen some attributes of those 6 opulences. Somebody can say, what are these attributes? Yeah, the first thing is they exist simultaneously. Sometimes we have seen this. Sometimes somebody may be intelligent, but he may not be very beautiful. Somebody may be beautiful, but may not be very knowledgeable. Somebody may be very knowledgeable, but may not be very renounced. So they exist simultaneously. Second is they exist in fullness, infinitely. So the Lord has infinite knowledge. And the third is they ever exist with the Supreme Personality of Lord Godhead. And the time doesn't act on the possession of these attributes. Right. So this is how the Lord is full in everything. And thus, whenever a devotee surrenders to the Supreme Lord, then he can receive the complete shelter. And because there is nobody who is as equal to the Supreme Lord, and therefore is called as Asama Urdhvaha. Asama Urdhva means there is nobody equal to or greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Next, text 33. So it's a beautiful verse. We will recite this verse. Param pradhanam purusham mahantam.
Param pradhanam purusham mahantam.
Kalam kamim trivritam lokapalam.
Kalam
Kalam
kavimrivritam lokapalam.
lokapalam.
Atmanubhutyānugata prapancham.
Atmanubhutya
Atmanubhutyanugata
prapancham.
prapancham.
Svachanda shaktim kapilam prapadye.
Swachanda
Swachanda
shaktim
shaktim
kapilam
kapilam prapadye.
prapadye.
Translation.
I surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, descended in the form of Kapila, who is independently powerful and transcendental, who is the Supreme Person and the Lord of the sum total of matter, and the element of time, who is fully cognizant, maintainer of all the universes under the 3 modes of material nature, and who absorbs the material manifestations after their dissolution. Purport. The 6 opulences, wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, are indicated here by Kardama Muni, who addresses Kapila Muni, his son, as Param. The word Param is used in the beginning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in the phrase Param Satyam to refer to the Sonam Bonam or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Param is explained further by the next word, Pradhanam, which means the chief, the origin, the source of everything, Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not formless. He is Purusham, or the enjoyer, the original person. He is the time element and is all cognizant. He knows everything, past, present, and future, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says, I know everything, present, past, and future, in every corner of the universe. The material world, which is moving under the spell of the three modes of nature, is also a manifestation of his energy. Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. Everything that we see is in interaction of his energies. Shvetasvara Upanishad 6.8. Parasya Brahmana Shaktis Tathedam Akhilam Jagat. This is the version of the Vishnu Purana. We can understand that whatever we see is an interaction of the three modes of material nature, but actually it is all an interaction of the Lord's energy. Lokapalam, he is actually the maintainer of all living entities. Nityo Nityanam, he is the chief of all living entities. He is one, but he maintains many, many living entities. God maintains all other living entities, but no one can maintain God. That is that is his Swachanda Shakti. He is not dependent on others. Someone may call himself independent, but he is still dependent on someone higher. The personality of Godhead, however, is absolute. There is no one higher than or equal to him. Kapila Muni appeared as the son of Kardama Muni, but because Kapila is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kardama Muni offered respectful obeisances unto him with full surrender. Another word in this verse is very important. Atmanubhutya Niyugata Prapancham. The Lord descends either as Kapila or Rama, Nasima or Varaha, and whatever forms he assumes in this material world are all manifestations of his own personal internal energy. They are never forms of the material energy. The ordinary living entities who are manifested in this material world have bodies created by the material energy, but when Krishna or any one of his expansions or parts of the expansions descends on this material world, although he appears to have material body, his body is not material. He always has a transcendental body, but fools and rascals, who are called mudas, consider him one of them, and therefore they deride him. They refuse to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they cannot understand him. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Avajananti mam muda. Those who are rascals and fools deride me. When God descends in a form, this does not mean that he assumes his form with the help of the material energy. He manifests his spiritual form as he exists in his spiritual kingdom.
A very beautiful verse. Now, Kardama Muni prays, Paradam Pradhanam Purusham Mahantam Kalam Kabim Trivritra Lokapalam Atmanubhutya Anugatam Prapancham Swachandam Shaktim Kapilam Prapadye. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has appeared as Kapila Muni. Now, who is this Kapila Muni? He is the Supreme Lord who is independently powerful. He is transcendental. He is the Parampurusha, Puranam, Pradhanam Puranam, Supreme Person, and the Lord of the sum total of matter and the element of time. Param, Pradhanam, Purusham, Mahantam. He is the maintainer of all the universe, one who absorbs the material manifestation after their dissolution. So, although the Supreme Lord is appearing as Swamsha But all the Swamsha has all the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that we have seen in the previous purport. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the Lord has 6 opulences, and they are indicated here by Kardama Muni. So, although Kapiladeva appears as the son of Kardama, but still he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is addressing his son as Param. Param, so Param is the beginning, right? Ishvara Parama Krishna. So this is the beginning. Similarly, Bhāgavatam also begins with Param. Bhagavad Gita, there is Param. So the Param is the beginning, and Prabhupada says, this Param is further explained by Pradhanam. What is Pradhanam? Pradhanam is the sum total of the material elements, and they are resting on Param. And this is how the Lord is Sarva Karana Karanam. The ultimate cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the enjoyer, he is the original person, and he is the controller of time factor, kalam. Because the material world, the ultimate control is with the time. Time controls everything. But the time is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, he is called as the personality who controls the time. Because he controls the time and he is all cognizant, he knows everything. We don't control time. We know some part of our past, not entirely past. Future is completely unknown to us. And present is revealing minute by minute. Present is revealing to us. But for the Supreme Lord, because he's beyond time, because he's beyond space and time domain, the time also becomes one variable that he can manipulate as his desire, and thus he is the controller of the time. And this is how the Lord's various energies act. And therefore the Lord is called as Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha. This is how the Lord's energies, they interact with each other, interact with the 3 modes of material nature, but everything ultimately is for Lokapalam. What is the Lokapalam? Is to maintain the personalities, the people around. And thus, he is the original Nityo Nityanam, and this is how Srila Prabhupada explains that this is how the Lord has the Swachhanda Shakti. So when the Lord performs this activity of maintenance of the universe, it is not some grinding for the Lord. Sometimes we see, the old person holding an atlas, and he's very tired holding the earth, the atlas holding the earth. But for the Lord, it is like Swachhanda Shakti. It is like one of his pastime. Just like a big, some multi-billionaire, he will have one of his farmhouse being just maintained by his energies, not with even direct conscious efforts of that billionaire. Some of the, like Mark Zuckerberg, he has some, 300 million, some yacht, and that is being maintained. Whenever he comes, he will enjoy that. But that is otherwise maintained simply by the energy of the billionaire. Similarly, the material world is maintained, and therefore the Lord is called as Lokapala, and that maintenance is by the Swachhanda Shakti. Prabhupada says the Supreme Lord is truly independent. He is Swarat. Others may claim that they are also independent, but still they are dependent. Like the modern times, there is this new fad of FIRE. FIRE means financial independent, retire early. That is what they call is FIRE, F-I-R-E. But somebody may be FIRE. What that FIRE means is they may have some bank balance. That's it. And their day-to-day maintenance is taken care by that financial arrangement. But apart from the finance, for everything in his life, he is dependent on everybody else. But the Lord is not like that. Lord is supremely independent, and he absolutely doesn't depend on anybody. So this is how the Lord is called as Swarata, or supremely independent. And therefore Kardama Muni is offering his obeisances with full surrender to his own son, and who is the Supreme Personality. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains, whenever we understand the explanations about the Lord and Lord appearing in particular form, these forms are not material. Right. This is Prabhupada is going to explain this again and again. These forms are not material. They exist in the spiritual world, and the Lord descends in a particular form, and this form should not be criticized by less intelligent people. avajananti mam mudha manushim tanum ashrita. So certain forms which are forms of the Lord, which are human-like form, there is always a tendency to criticize. And Prabhupada says, this is the activity of the fools and rascals. So fools and rascals is English translation of vimudha. Mudha is fool, vimudha is rascal. And therefore, one should not criticize the form of the Lord. Like playing dandiya and thinking that Krishna is playing with gopis. I am also playing with my girlfriends, and this is also I am also Krishna. So this is deriding form of the Supreme Lord. So this is not being recommended, and therefore Prabhupada says one has to save oneself from this, understand divinity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one should surrender, who is the only worthy object of surrender towards the. So this is how now, because the Prapadya is coming, naturally you can say that the prayers are being concluded here by Kardama Muni. So we come to the next verse now, text 34. 1 second. Asmabhipurche adyapatim prajanam tvayavatirnarnaruna aptakamaha parivrajat padavim asthito parivrajat padavim asthitoham charishye tvam vridhiyunjanam vishoka. Translation.
Today, I have something to ask from you. You are the Lord of all living entities. Since I have now been liberated by you from my debts to my Father, and since all my desires are fulfilled, I wish to accept the order of itinerant mendicant. Renouncing this family life, I wish to wander about, free from lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart. Purport. Actually, sannyasa or renunciation of material household life necessitates complete absorption in Krishna consciousness and immersions in the self. One does not take sannyasa, freedom from family responsibility, in the renounced order of life, to make another family or to create an embarrassing transcendental fraud in the name of sannyasa. The sannyasi's business is not to become proprietor of so many things and amass money from the innocent public. A sannyasi is proud that he is always thinking of Krishna within himself. Of course, there are two kinds of devotees of the Lord. One is called Goshtyanandi, which means those who are preachers and have many followers for preaching the glories of the Lord, and who live among those many followers just to organize missionary activities. Other devotees are Atmanandi, or self-satisfied, and do not take the risk of preaching work. They therefore remain alone with God. In this classification, Kardama Muni. In this classification was Kardama Muni. He wanted to be free from all anxieties and remain alone within his heart with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parivraja means an itinerant mendicant. The American sannyasi should not live anywhere for more than 3 days. He must be always moving because his duty is to move from door to door and enlighten people about Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Now Kardama, he concludes his prayers. He says, "Today, my dear Lord, I have something to ask from you. Since I have been now liberated by you from my debts to my father." Now look at how Kardama Muni is asking for permission of sannyas. "Since all my desires are fulfilled, I wish to accept the order of mendicant sannyasi, parivrajaka. Renouncing the family life, I wish to wander about, free from the lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart." In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that sannyas, sannyas means one has to be completely absorbed in activities of Krishna consciousness. And thus, being absorbed in Krishna, one will become abhayam. And that is the first quality of sannyasi. Sannyasi is not it's not something show bottle where one takes sannyas and tries that his maintenance is passing on to society. That is not sannyas. Right? Sannyasi is deep absorption in Krishna. Now, within the sannyasis, there are two types of sannyasi, Prabhupada explains. One sannyasis, they are called as Goshtyanandi. Another, they are called as Atmanandi. Goshtyanandis are the people who move around and spread Krishna consciousness. They take the risk of preaching work. Atmanandis are people who prefer to stay as some Babaji, or they will prefer to stay in one place, particularly some dham like Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri, and they are simply happy being with the Lord, and that is also bona fide sannyas. That is called as Atmanandi. Now, here in this case, Kardama Muni wants to be a traveling Parivrajaka sannyasi. He wants to be a Goshtyanandi sannyasi. So this is, Prabhupada writing. Prabhupada is a classic example of a Goshtyanandi, right? Left Vrindavan at the age of 69, very peaceful arrangement at Vrindavan, went to New York, the lower Bowery, that filled with hippies, imagine 1960s, 1970s, and spread the Krishna conscious mission everywhere. So there are Goshtyanandis and there are Atmanandis. So Atmanandis, they will not risk the preaching activities, but the Goshtyanandis, they will take the risk to preach. Why there is a risk to preach? Because when you preach, you are confronting with Maya. And when you are confronting with Maya, there is always a chance that there is a counter attack by Maya also, whenever you confront with Maya. And therefore, preaching activity is also considered as more riskier than the Atmanandi, who is happy with his own activities and his own deliverance. Later in the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj is going to pray something to the similar lines. And Prahlad will say, my dear Lord, I want to shoche tato vimukha chetasa indriyarthan maya sukhaya bharam udvahato mimudhan. And very beautiful prayer. And Prabhupada is going to write a very beautiful purport there. So these are the two types of sannyasis, Goshtyanandi and Atmanandi. Kardama Muni very clearly wanted to be Atmanandi. He wanted a Parivrajaka. He wanted to be a traveling sannyasi. And Prabhupada says the traveling sannyasi means he will move from place to place, enlighten people, and then move on. And Prabhupada's personal rule was he will not stay more than 3 days at one place. And that 3 days has its own, the beautiful origin. Later we'll see the pastime of Daksha Prajapati and Narada Muni. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhupada.
you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, just a quick question. Prabhuji, just like Prabhupada says, preaching is the essence. So I was wondering who is, even Prabhupada in this purport talks about Goshtyanandi. And so who is the right candidate to preach, or who are supposed to preach, Prabhuji? That was.
Who is supposed to preach? Everybody is supposed to preach. Prabhupada, of course, Prabhupada's time, it was an emergency situation. To Prabhupada, so somebody is like 2 months old, 3 months old in Krishna consciousness. They were assigned the task of preaching mission. But what is preaching? Preaching means sharing what we have learned. That is called as preaching. Right? So whatever we know perfectly, that much we should preach. And in the preaching activity, if something comes which is we don't know, then we can say, oh, I need to confirm this from my senior devotees. And then we get back to them. So ideally, after knowing a little bit of Bhagavad Gita, practicing, we all are supposed to preach. What is preaching? Preaching means spreading the message. And this is such a universal, the bona fide message. It is not like my way or highway kind of a message, or, my God is the highest God kind of a message. It is, this message is like, Purnam, Pavitram, Shubha, Mangalam. It's all auspicious message. And we should be, to our capacity, we should preach. Like, so there is some sannyasi who may be preaching to thousands of people. Somebody may be preaching to 50 people. We may be preaching to our neighbor, sometimes to our. So we should always extend oneself to preach. But one should not mix one's profession with preaching. That is also another thing. So preaching activity should be, at profession, one should preach by one's conduct. Being professional, one can preach at one's profession. Like I am teacher in one college, so I don't preach there in that college. All other colleges I preach, but that college I particularly don't preach. Right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna. Pujam Pranam,
Prabhupada.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, everyone.
Nikam
Thank
Pranam,
you.
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada Anarpana. Hare Krishna. Prabhu.